Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. The process that I'm going to use in the next video, I'm still questioning a little bit. It's taken me a long time to decide on doing it this way, but I'm still not sold on it myself. So if you have any thoughts on how I could improve it, please throw them down in the comments section down below and I'll definitely take them into consideration. I will say up front that this is not a technical how-to video. This is an idea that I have, and I'd like to see if anybody out there has a simple idea on how to improve this without making it overly complex. So what I'm setting out to do this time is secure the deck boards to the structure of the subframe underneath the deck. And I've had a long thinking process on the different ways that I could do this, but the most straightforward one I've come up with is to use pieces of 1/2-inch round bar inserted into the channel of the deck extrusion, and then I've got some heavy-duty zip ties that are going to go around the round bar and around the steel frame that's underneath. I know, I can hear you already. This whack job thinks he can hold his truck together with zip ties. But hear me out. These zip ties are rated for 120 pounds each. Each of these deck boards has 2 points at which it crosses every crossbeam, and there's 6 crossbeams. That means there's 12 points where I can use these zip ties to hold each board down. That's over 1,400 pounds of hold down force per board. And all it's doing is holding the board on. So what about the other part of the equation? I'm using a plastic zip tie and I'm using a piece of 1/2-inch aluminum round bar. The amount of deflection that there's going to be over this is 71 millimeters long, so just shy of 3 inches, and it's 1/2-inch round bar, and I'm putting 120 pounds of force on it max. That's not going to bend at all. This is also the same material, being aluminum, as the extruded deck boards, which are aluminum, so there's not going to be any type of galvanic reaction to make one corrode. The zip tie is not going to cause any type of reaction on the aluminum, and it's going around aluminum and steel, so it's isolating, because it's plastic, the aluminum from the steel. Let's look a little closer at how the process would go together. This is the underside of the deck board, and as you can see, we've got a T in the center and an L on each side. And this means I've got a surface here to land on and a surface here to land on. When I insert the round bar in here, it's going to pull down on both sides, and I'll have one on each side of the center. So I can have a securing point here and a securing point here for approximately 240 pounds of hold down force. Now, how am I going to know if I'm getting the zip ties tight enough? Because if they're not tight, these boards are going to rattle, and if they rattle, everything is going to fall apart. Well, that's where this comes in handy. This is specifically made to tighten zip ties. You can adjust the tension on it. So as an example, if I take these 2 pieces of round bar, put the zip tie around them, do it up by hand, and then I've got the tension set on this, slip this onto the zip tie, it's going to tension it to the max and cut it off. Those are now secured together with the tension set on here. I know I'm not over tensioning the zip tie, but it's also making everything nice and snug. Zip ties are a very fast and easy way to make a securing point. They're not going to corrode. They don't have an issue with different metals. So tell me, am I completely nuts to try and hold this deck down using zip ties? I also want this to be fairly simple to put together because there are a lot of attachment points. As I said, there's about 12 per board, and I've got 14 boards. You do the math. So what I want to be able to do is take this piece of round bar and insert it at the point where it crosses. Because if I can only insert them in the front and the back, I've got to roll them all the way along the channel from the back to the front or the front to the middle. I want to be able to put these in at the point where they need to be attached. So what I've done is I've taken the corner off. You can just see there a little bit of the corner off, and I've made this almost exactly the width of the channel. And what that does is means I can stick it up inside with the corner knocked off and twist it into place. Once it's twisted into place, it does take a little bit of force. It can't twist itself back out, which means even if the zip tie breaks, this piece should stay in the channel. It may not stay in its location, but it can't actually fall back out again. Well, what if the zip ties start to break? Well, if 50% of the zip ties break holding any one deck board down, I still have 700 pounds of hold down force available on that board. And keep in mind, these boards are only holding themselves down. The camper is sitting on top of these boards and it is secured independently to the subframe. In fact, let's take that thought process one step further. What if every single zip tie breaks? Well, the camper is on top of it, and the camper is held down to the subframe. So every single zip tie can break and these deck boards still can't go anywhere. The only reason I need these deck boards tied down is if at any time the camper is not on top of the back of the truck, at which point they're just holding themselves in place.
Well, since you've made it this far into the video, and trust me, I really do appreciate it, let's give you a little demo of what I'm talking about. I've got my piece of 1/2-inch round bar. I'm going to put it up in the channel, wedge it around, and that's kind of snapped into place. Whoop. Slide it along so that it's centered over top of the subframe. Being that this is the first one, as I push it around, the deck board's actually trying to move back and forth. So I've got this centered over top of the subframe now. Put a zip tie over it. Wrap the zip tie around the subframe. Put it down here. Tension that zip tie. Cut it off. And that board is now held in place.
Tell me what you think. Am I completely crazy? Have you ever seen anybody do it like this before? Is there some reason why I absolutely should not consider doing it this way? Do you have an idea on a little minor tweak that I could do that would make this a whole lot better, or an easier way that I could be doing this? Any of your thoughts, please throw them down in the comments section below. I really appreciate any time and effort put into trying to help me resolve this problem. Don't worry, there's plenty more regular videos to come, and soon, some pretty exciting adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.